Hi, my name is Karan Rai, and the speech type I chose was about policy, as I wanted to focus on how colleges should pay their athletes stipends in addition to their scholarships. According to the column in the Holland Sentinel, published by their editorial board and accessed on April 11th of this year, CBS and partner networks have a $10.8 billion deal with the NCAA to broadcast the NCAA tournament, commonly known to as March Madness. This does not even count the billions of dollars that ESPN and other networks spend to broadcast regular season games in college basketball. Basketball also is the second most profitable sport for the NCAA, behind football, with football television contracts varying from conference to conference, generally being very high. For example, the Big Ten has a contract in place which pays each of its 12 schools $20.7 million a year in TV money for the next 10 years or so, according to Bob Reisman's article in the New York Daily. However, who actually develops the product that makes these contracts worth it? College athletes, our peers, labor at their sport to provide entertainment for us. For this reason, it is important to make sure they are fairly compensated. Additionally, college athletes usually do not have their side of the argument heard to provide it to be paid more, which is why this issue needs to be publicized more. Having worked with athletes and taken classes with them, I've seen firsthand how much time their sports take up. Balancing a full class schedule while also participating in a sport is a necessity for them for which they must be adequately compensated. College students or college athletes right now are not being compensated well enough for their efforts, and efforts must be made to perhaps implement a stipend for them. So next time you go to Memorial Stadium for a Husker game, take a moment to ponder how much time and effort those players have put in through their hot summer practices, the off-season film sessions, and travel time, all while bringing in millions to good old Nebraska, and realize that a mere scholarship is not fair recompense. First, let's start by considering what an average athlete's college scholarship actually consists of. In an article published on ESPN.com by Dana O'Neill on July 13th of 2011, it is entailed how Kirk Cousins, former quarterback of the Michigan State Spartans, received free in-state tuition for 4 years, a $78,000 value, money for books, and essentially free food at the team's Pennington. However, this did not account for gas, food at his apartment, cell phone bills, clothing, shoes, and other essential everyday living expenses. Without being able to work a job, Cousins mentions how he really only has freedom for about 1 month a year, as the rest of his time is taken up by football or training for football. How is one supposed to pay for all this? Also, what businesses would even hire a person for a mere 1 month if one were to suggest that Cousins worked during that 1 month of the time? With college athletes struggling to make up the differences in their scholarships, often they will take out loans like the average student, or in more extreme cases, resort to unscrupulous methods, such as accepting cash from agents. This is seen in a News and Observer article which mentioned on March 12, 2013, how the University of North Carolina had football players who indulged in such an act. They should not have to do either of these measures due to their contribution to their institution. The full scholarship not actually covering all the needs of a college athlete, measures must be made to squash this problem. Now that we know the problem at hand, involving college athletes not being fairly compensated, let's see the ways that we can find a solution. One solution would be to pay players a stipend, which would hopefully cover the difference. The Lexington Examiner delves into this issue in an article published on November 30th of 2012. It does bring up the issue that this would ruin the amateurism aspect of college sports, and that would also bring up the question of how to pay athletes depending on which sport they play. The article mentioned how a stipend rule actually had been put in place in late 2010, but had to be overridden due to the protests of athletic directors and conference commissioners. With such a proposition having been put in place earlier, it shouldn't be that difficult to adjust it and allow for stipends to once again be proposed. After finding a proposed solution, let's see the ways it would actually benefit college athletes. By paying athletes, it would prevent such occurrences where schools have been found to be illegally paying recruits to play for them. A column in the Orlando Sentinel by Bob Fowler, published on February 11, 1986, shows how far-reaching of a problem this has been, as it mentioned how Kenneth Davis, the standout running back, was paid $38,000 to attend TCU. He was later deemed ineligible after he was found out, which ruined his playing career and also tarnished the reputation of the university. By giving athletes a stipend or even a cut of the ticket sales, this would lower the need for them to accept money illegally. Of course, there still would be the proverbial bad apples who would still accept money, but these would hopefully be very few in number. Paying athletes would also remove the stress of figuring out how to make ends meet for them. On top of class and their sport, why should they be burdened with added stress? This would presumably improve their performance and thus bring in more revenue for the schools as well. After looking at the benefits of the solution, let's look at some of the drawbacks. One of the main concerns is that paying college athletes would further differentiate them from the average college student. However, due to the fact that athletes bring in a lot of revenue and have more time tied up in their school-related activities to their sport, they should be compensated more than the average student. Why should a newspaper editor get a stipend but an athlete shouldn't? Both are doing tasks to benefit their school and take up time. Now that we have heard all the reasons why college athletes shouldn't receive a stipend, I hope it is clear why something needs to be done. After viewing how a full scholarship does not actually cover all the needs for a student athlete, and hearing the proposed solution of paying a stipend, you all now should be able to see how important it is that college athletes receive their extra money. These athletes are our peers, and we should stand with them and draw attention to their plight. The next time you walk past a third-stringer on the football team, or a wrestler, or a track and field athlete, or a women's volleyball player, remember that they have our problems too. They often don't have the time to get a job to cover for their expenses. For that reason, we should be hoping that they are compensated more, so that their efforts for our university